Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh to some of you and peace out to the rest of you. Look, hit the share button because the message is more important than the messenger. I'm want to give a shout out to some in both spheres, loyal listeners, folks who just generally and genuinely mean well for others. I am going to only address the ladies of the golden sphere from now on under three conditions. I am requested to mediate disputes, and even then I may not be qualified for it. If I have a question to ask, and I mean a non-hostile question, and if I am asked a question, I will gladly try to answer it and contribute and help out. But I realized something. I realized that the infighting is more complex than what I initially thought on the lady side. Now, there is the dimension of it that I do understand, and it was necessary, and I know which side I support for moral reasons. It's plain as day. There's a camp that pretty much doesn't think much of men, doesn't value men as equals in humanity. There is another camp that values men as equals in humanity. There are several individuals who go back and forth between those of the two polar opposite camps, and they may actually value men, but they're not so militant against the ones who don't that you can clearly say, oh, they're enemies. I also realize that I've been wrong in assessing some of them. I ain't gonna front. I expected to be cross-examined. When I went on a live, I expected a cross-examination. I just expected it from a different source, but I was ready for it nonetheless. I just had to change direction. And I didn't assume any hostile intent either. I still don't. But I understand that everybody that knew the questioner and another man, everyone that knew both of them was taken aback. They did not expect this between those two. And that man is disappointed. He's not filled with hatred or anything, but he is disappointed and hurt. What I wanted to say is to the MLS men. Next. I still mean well to the ladies to whom I've meant well before. I will stay in the comments section when some of them go live and they're talking about a particular issue. I'll stay in the comments section, give support, wave to them, and only if invited or asked a question would I go on. When I record, only if to ask a question or if I'm asked a question or if one of them asks me to address a topic, would I do so. Other than that, I'd fuck the shuck up, not out of hatred for the ones that mean men well, not out of hatred, but because I can't help. The conflicts go back to the point, gentlemen, you may know the conflicts better than I do because some of you have been discussing the subject on YouTube. You've been tackling the issue as best you can for longer than there's been something called a golden sphere. And you've heard some of the ladies in their complaints, and you would be able to, maybe if they wanted to mediate a dispute, they could call one of you. And if both of them agreed, you may be able to do it much better than I could because of the history I don't know. Now, two ladies got into a dispute in one of my threads. I woke up to it, but I still learned some information, and I'm going to give the benefit of the doubt and assume neither one's lying. You can't put screenshots in a YouTube comment. It's true. You can't upload it. You can put links, but I also know that even if you remember something someone said, the link may be gone or you just may need a long time to find it. And if you got a job, you can't just scour through hours of video to find both a link and a timestamp. So I understand that. To be fair, I learned something from both sides. But what I also realize is that I'm not going to be able to help even the ones who mean well for men and women alike when they have their own disputes. I was reading them, and then I went to work, and I was every so often I'd look and I'd see that somebody wrote more. And of course there are detractors that are like, Black Mind, you part of this, it's your fault. Man, look, I woke up to this stuff. But I've also come to understand that it's a very different space for the men. It really is. And that's the same thing as the rest of the West, as far as I'm concerned. It's a very different world for the men. So I sit up and I look at this and I want to say, okay, you know what? I do want good for the women that want well for the men and the women. And I want well for the men, except for the ones who don't care anything about other men or men's rights for that matter. My goal, though, as I stated before, was locations offline and online, safe from false accusations for what we didn't do, and safe from negative stereotypes in ways that aren't true. That was my goal. That's why I supported it. I realize that while I'm still in support of that because that's fair and it's just, and look, I'm even in support of that for Western Europeans. Y'all know what I've said about their society outside of Western Europe, outside of there. But I even want something like that for Western Europeans. It's just that that place is Western Europe. It already exists. I want something like that for our unmixed relatives. But you know what? That place, actually, it depends on which part of the continent. There are parts of the continent where that does exist. Other parts of the continent where they have the same inferiority complex and self-hatred. Not just a problem with skin bleaching, but actual self-hatred. That does exist in some parts. It depends on where you go. But they're there. What about for you? Well, the ironic thing is that there's some parts of the continent that are safe for that from you. But let me say this, gentlemen. I got a Discord server. I sent Mr. Cannon the link because I wanted him to run it. Looking back, I'm not. He may join it, but I'm not sure if he has the time to run it. And in all honesty, he can. He still could. But I'm going to ask you, gentlemen, now to come in and join it, so that you can tell your stories of what you've seen as men, and you can either just tell them to me only, and I republish them anonymously, or you can share them in front of others, because it could help to track what regions, like how this thing changes from region to region of the United States, or even Canada included, maybe even the UK. I'm not opposed to learning that. I'm not opposed to learning how it may affect some of you that are in the Caribbean. Selecta J talked about that, what it was like in Trinidad. We can learn. I'm not calling for or against the separatism. You're going to decide that because you live in the United States or Canada or somewhere in the Americas, in an Anglophone country, if you're hearing this. I don't live there, so I can't tell you whether you're going to separate or not. But what I do understand is that, frankly, the idea of a safe location, especially offline, is not something I'm going to be able to contribute to right now. The women are going through the infighting, and maybe it's some parts of it are necessary. They have to go through it. Others, I don't know. And I'm not sure I could help them get through it. This is an obstacle to that goal. I don't know how to help them or you get over. And I just can't, since I can't benefit, I'm going to have to fuck the shuck up until I see little instances in which I could say something that might help, or ask for information that may help, or respond to an invitation, as I said, because then they perceive that I might be able to help out. And in those cases, I'm glad to do it. Not for the gender warriors, obviously, but if they say, look, you know what, I'm not going to be a gender warrior, then I'll give them the benefit of the doubt. If they incline towards peace, I'll incline towards it. But for you, gentlemen, I'll still continue to address you, because I may be able to do so in ways that help. And I can learn from you if you're willing to share your stories or information, firsthand observations. You could say, look, you know, this is anecdotal. I didn't see this as a pattern that other people went through. I did see it as a pattern I went through, because somebody else could come along and say, well, over here in this part of the country, yeah, I saw the same thing. Or they could say, you know what, over here in this part of the country, I didn't see that. We could help to track this, learn more about it, dispel misconceptions. That's really what I'm about. As a former history teacher, that's a very important part of my job. It's important that I dispel misconceptions students have had. And this, you know what, a lot of the arguments that do go on, but whether they're between men or women or both, usually stem from people having historical misconceptions and not realizing the two things could be true. They could be even about different time frames. Some people like to sit up and say, well, I ain't got nothing to do with no golden folk in Latin America. Okay, culturally or genetically? Which one do you mean? Because there is overlap. There's some cultural overlap, but a lot of cultural difference. Genetically, there's a lot of overlap. It's the same three races. And so a lot of people, they're just not aware of the difference between the cultural distinction and the genetic similarity. As a matter of fact, most people are genetically similar. Most of the human species is. One family of gorillas in a jungle has more genetic variation within them than the entire human species in or outside of Africa. That's because, well, humans just aren't that distinct. Just don't have that wide genetic variation. Despite the variation that you can see, the genetic variation is just not that big between all people. You know, some of this knowledge does help to understand and put things in proper perspective. And that's why when I came in, I was like, I don't really give a rat's behind so much about looks. I don't care. What I want is for you to be safe from those who are obsessed with how you look in a negative way. And even those who are obsessed with how you look in a negative way, I want them to find a place where they are free from those who are obsessed with how they look in a negative way, even if those obsessed with how they look in a negative way resemble them closely, which does happen on both ends of the spectrum. Yeah, I've dealt with colorism from people that really weren't much darker than I am. Just a little bit more tropical or original looking than I am, and but the other thing too was that they felt like I'm just bigger and stronger than black minds, so I'm gonna buck on them, I'm gonna disrespect them till they got hit or kicked in the nuts. Sometimes it was just simply that. They were just more likely to think they could get away with it because in addition to maybe them being a bit bigger, I was also lighter skinned. There was that too. That did happen on occasion. There were other instances, but you know what? Same thing happened on the opposite end of the spectrum. Tommy Sotomayor and Rashida Strober were on I think it was on his YouTube channel. They talked about this, and they actually came to the agreement that much of that colorism was in fact perpetrated against them by those who resembled them and came from the same family. Tommy Sotomayor said his own mom did it. O'Shea Duke Jackson said that it came from his own family. Those who resembled him. That's where it came from. I saw that happen. So, yeah, gentlemen, I'm trying to do what I think will help the most. And for the ladies that don't mean us any harm, I don't mean them any either. I perceive a lack of my ability to help them. Of course, the gender warriors, that's a different story. When Mrs. Golden goes live next time, I look forward to being there. I'll be in the chat. I only go up if she says go up, or if I have to ask a question, or if I can answer it. There's not really much new information I can give them because the main important thing they need right now is a way to get past this infighting, the unnecessary aspects of it. And I can't help them even with that, let alone the necessary one. The thing is, gentlemen, partially it's about y'all. It's not about me. Partially it is about y'all. The necessary aspects of the infighting are about you, but not about who you are as people. It's about your attention, your validation, and your resources. And truth be told, for the ladies of the sphere that do mean men well, I want to say one bit of advice to you all that I've already mentioned before. When I talk about the wicked witches of the West in general, this doesn't have to include you. You are Western born, you are Western raised. You will have been socialized and taught the same thing as the wicked witches of the West were born and taught. Even they're not to blame for where they were born or what someone taught them, but when they follow it and they don't feel a guck. That's why I blame them. You have shown the ability to differentiate yourselves, but you will have to work to do it. You will have to deprogram and you will have to reprogram. I've mentioned this before. It will not be easy. You will feel like you're being attacked at times because you'll think that these attacks are levied against you. They only apply to you if you choose to behave in ways that make them apply to you. And obviously, you don't consciously do this if you look at men and you appreciate men both above and below the belt. So it's obviously not going to be conscious. But if you were making the effort to work this out of your subconscious, then you are praiseworthy. To give an example, my students come in different types. Some cheat, and I catch them cheating. And then others of them are really good students. They're fluent and they don't cheat. Sometimes I have a fluent student who cheats. But when I catch them cheating and I say to them, you're not allowed to do that, I'm writing the report on you. You're going to fail and repeat. Sometimes the good students who don't even cheat turn around and want to defend them and then get offended when they want to defend them and then get offended when I don't listen to their defense. I have to say to them, listen, if you aren't a cheater, then you fuck the shuck up and fit the suck down in that chair before I turn you in too. Why would you defend a cheater? Now, some would say, well, yo, black man, why you got to go hard on them like that? It's real simple. Cheaters don't deserve to get ahead. Gender warriors don't deserve to get ahead in your sphere. Why? They don't deserve to benefit from what you're looking for. You're looking for the same thing that Mr. Cannon and his two co-creators, Miss Philosophier, I think, and definitely LSP, the Golden Artist, meant when they started this. They wanted, same thing I said, for the most part, they wanted you to have places digitally and offline where you weren't going to be blamed for things you didn't do and stereotyped negatively in ways that aren't true. If that's what they were looking for, then you have to understand that the gender warriors, and even the ones who want to act like there's no accountability on the women, or they want to act like there's an equal accountability on the men, not in other cultures, but in the West, if they dare insinuate even so much as that, then what they're going to do is they're going to run the men off. What you gonna hold men accountable for? Granted, you can hold individual men accountable for what they do as individuals. Yeah, sure, true. But we in the manosphere would say the same thing. Manosphere doesn't exonerate men as a whole just because they're men. The manosphere pretty much says men have been held accountable already. That's already being applied. It ain't being applied across the board for both genders, not in the West. Absolutely not. We know it ain't been. And that's one thing that's going to be very difficult for you. I'll leave y'all with that for now until I'm asked a question or invited up somewhere. But when I say this, it ain't because of hatred. I'm saying it's because when men make honest mistakes because they just don't know about women, they get held accountable. Y'all heard Mr. Leonard Roy talking. He was holding men accountable for not understanding women. Like what woman's going to sit up and give you an actual class to explain how they are, the good and the bad? Even Marnie, what's this lady? Marnie, your personal wing girl. She explains the psyche. And when it's wrong, she doesn't have the decency to tell the men, this is up, you deserve better. And what you should do is stop giving women like this any second chances. She doesn't have the decency even to say that. She's still trying to tell the men how to cater to even the parts of the women's mindsets that are wrong and how they judge men. You got guys sitting up and saying, nice guys deserve to finish last because women aren't made to respect them. Excuse me. What they're saying is it's okay for women, as long as they're sexually attractive, it's okay for them to be too immature to tell the difference between a man with manners and a wimp. So what if she can't tell kindness from weakness, which is something adults should be able to do? You should go ahead and cater to that anyway. What? It's okay for women to not want wimps. I get it. The problem is, West does teach ladies that it's okay to not know the difference between the guy with manners and an outright wimp pushover. And that it's okay to crap test men. But it's not okay for men to test the women in any way, form, or fashion. It teaches the ladies to take and not give. It is imbalanced. And this is one of the hard things. This will be difficult for many of you to accept. But you can do it. You will be able to see how true it is if you choose to. You will have to get over the programming that tells you that the pick-me is a problem. No, the pick-me's not actually. I'm not talking about the Batwa people of Central Africa that are short. I'm talking about the ones that are called pick-mishas as well. I don't know about the Nika Marie, to be honest. I know her name. I don't really know much about her. Dr. Helen Smith, no, she's not a problem. She just gives a fair assessment from what I've heard. She defends men from other men. Well, just man up and suck it up, and that's the system. Nope, that's what one of the gender warriors that's actually on you all's side of that line that y'all have drawn in the sand now tends to say to men, just suck it up, man up and suck it up, even if it's unfair. No, shuck that fit. You wouldn't tolerate it for yourself. Don't tell us to. She's the one that says we sound like a bunch of complaining incels. As if you can blame an incel either, because by definition, it's involuntary. If it's involuntary, how do you blame them now? If it's voluntary, okay. But how do you blame someone for anything that's involuntary? The fact that she thinks it's okay to do this, and you'll see who she is. She's a friend of some of y'all. She comes in your live and your chats, and y'all greet her, because y'all don't know. But the fact that she would say that, that's the same mindset that some people, some of the ICSH have when they start to go in on us for phenotypes. Same mindset that some people on our side of the spectrum have when they start to use derogatory terms like crispy for those on the opposite end of the spectrum. All of this is involuntary. Phenotypes are involuntary. It's the same thing. And ladies, it's going to be hard. I get it. But you know what? I'll say it this one time, and then I'm going to shuck up about it for now. Until questioned, I'll be addressing the men. It's not even because I hate you. It's just I don't think I can help. The men, I think I can help right now. And truth be told, even the sphere is a vastly different space for both genders. And to be honest, frankly, I blame the gender warriors for that. Even that much. Shout out to Mr. Cannon. He tried to explain it. He said something about the Golden Brotherhood. And in that video, he did say it is hard AF being a man. And yes, the legal system ain't fair and balanced. Instead of being a parent, you're a pay rent. He was right. And the funny thing is, a lot of ladies didn't get offended. Now, he took a lot less time, so he went a lot less in depth than I am. But a lot of the ladies who would get offended if I said the same thing didn't get offended when he did. And I think that he's one of those to whom y'all may need to listen in depth. And he'll say some things that you may not like, but you know what? If y'all respect him enough and you can trust him to at least tell you the truth and be honest, even if he makes a mistake, it'll be an honest mistake because he's human. And since we both can trust him for that, y'all may need to listen to him if you can't listen to it coming from me or from someone else. And gentlemen, y'all hit me up. We'll talk on Discord. I'll be busy through November, first week of December, but I'll still try to check Discord, and I'll try to either record or at least post weekly on my community tab, so I'm not going away. I'm just going to be busy. But Discord, I'll try to check that at least every 3 days, Lord willing. If y'all want that server, Mr. Cannon has the link, even though he hasn't joined it yet. He can still send the link to you. So too can I. If you leave your email under here, I can send it to you if I know you. To the YouTuber or YouTube user whose name is a full sentence, light-skinned and mixed people should date each other. That's his name. Feel free to leave your email and I'll send that to you too. Or Mr. Cannon can send it. And I can trust you. I know you're on the other Discord server that already exists. A lady sent you that one. And that's fine. But this one will be for the men. It's not even to bash the women. It's just that like I said, I just don't think I can help them that much. Some of y'all can. When it comes to mediating disputes that may be unnecessary, y'all may be able to. I don't have the background knowledge yet to do it. And I admit that. That's something one of my detractors was right about. If you don't know something, why are you talking about it? But my answer is also valid. To comment on what I do know, and I'm willing to learn about what I don't. This is one of the things I don't know enough about to benefit. Thank you for listening. Black heart, black mind, black out. Assalamu alaikum.